Alright, man. So Josh Jacobs done got into some shit. Finna go and react to it, man. Let's get into it.
Packers running back Josh Jacobs arrested.
Yeah, Jacobs turned himself in today. He's booked in the Brown County Jail. Charges of battery, strangulation and suffocation, and intimidating a victim.
Yeah. Because Josh Jacobs was arrested, that means that somebody
He
did
turned himself in.
something
Good shit,
he shouldn't have
man.
done.
Yeah, not a good look. If he's guilty of all these things, then shame on him. He's gonna have
Tried
to
to
pay the
get his ass
consequences,
down.
and he should. But like history has also taught us that, you know, within love and relationships like that at times too, these stories and things can go a little crazy. But either
Yeah, they
way, it's
can,
not a good
for
look, and
sure.
it's a stain on Josh Jacobs' reputation.
A few months ago, Brian Gutekunst stood at a podium at the NFL Combine and
Brian
called
Gutekunst,
Josh
who?
Jacobs a warrior, called him a critical piece, said he had a lot of good years left, and that was in February. Yesterday, on the first day of OTAs, while his Packers teammates were on the practice field, Josh Jacobs was being booked into Brown County Jail on 5 criminal charges, including a felony that carries up to 6 years in a Wisconsin state prison. And what makes this story even crazier is this is the 3rd year in a row an NFL player has faced a felony of this magnitude. The last 2 were both acquitted, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what happened with them because it tells you everything about what's likely coming for Josh Jacobs. But first, you need to understand how serious these charges actually are, because this isn't what most people think when they're hearing of a DV arrest. So before we get to the content, I just wanted to give a shout out to my pop culture channel. Since we're in the dog days of the off season, if you want to see us cover some different topics that don't pertain to sports, check us out on Flight Mike TV. I'll leave a link to that in the video. To be asked, Josh Jacobs has not been convicted of anything. His attorneys have already come out and said that he vehemently denies the allegations and that there's evidence that hasn't been made public yet. So due process matters, and we're going to treat it that way throughout this entire video. That being said, the charges themselves are public record, and they are very serious charges that could ruin Josh Jacobs' life. There's 5 total charges, and the one that jumps off the page is strangulation and suffocation. In the state of Wisconsin, that is a Class H felony. And here's what a lot of people don't realize. You don't have to render someone unconscious for this charge. The legal threshold is simply impeding someone's normal breathing or blood circulation by applying pressure to the throat, the neck, or blocking the nose or mouth. That's it. Up to 6 years in prison, up to a $10,000 fine, and that's for a first offense. The other 4 are misdemeanors: battery, criminal damage to property, disorderly conduct, all with domestic modifiers, plus intimidation of a victim. Per Tom Pelissaro, the strangulation charge is the only felony. But that intimidation charge, that one's interesting. Intimidation of a victim typically means alleged contact or pressure on the accuser after the initial incident. That suggests that this didn't end on Saturday morning. Which brings me to what we actually know about when this actually occurred. Saturday, May 23rd, 8:37 in the morning, the Hobart Lawrence Police Department gets dispatched to a disturbance complaint involving Josh Jacobs. An investigation begins. Then, nothing. No arrest Saturday, no arrest Sunday, no arrest on Monday. 3 full days pass, and then on Tuesday, Josh Jacobs turns himself in and gets booked. Why does that matter? Because a 3-day gap between the incident and the arrest tells you that this wasn't a heat of the moment decision by the cops. They investigated, they consulted with prosecutors, they built a case, and then they decided they had enough for 5 charges, including a felony. That's a deliberate process, not a snap judgment at the scene. What we don't know is basically everything else. We don't know who the alleged victim is. We don't have body camera footage. We don't have 911 audio. The police chief said no further information will be released at this time. I do want to address something that's already blowing up on social media because you guys are definitely going to see it. Josh Jacobs has been in a public relationship with Ash Cash since early this year. People online are already connecting those dots, and I'm not going to do that because at the time that we're making this video, we don't know who the victim is. There is this one tweet that people keep coming back to where Ash Cash says, "Tough love sounds like cruelty to me." If you guys want to connect those dots, you're more than welcome to do it. I'm not going to speculate about who was or was not involved. That's honestly not my job. What I will tell you is that the charges include a domestic modifier, which under Wisconsin law means the alleged victim is someone Jacobs has or had a domestic relationship with. That's the extent of what we can responsibly say right now. But Josh Jacobs' defense team, they're already talking, and the team he assembled tells you how seriously he's taking this. David Chesnoff and Richard Schoenfeld. Chesnoff is one of the most prominent criminal defense attorneys in the entire country, based out of Las Vegas from Josh Jacobs' years with the Raiders. These are not the lawyers you hire if you think the charges are are going to
thought he was
quietly
on
go
the
away.
range.
And their statement was very specific. Important evidence that has not yet been made public. That's not a generic denial, guys. That's a legal team telling you they believe they have something that changes the story entirely. So where does this go from here? Well, here's the thing. The criminal case is actually only half the problem for Jacobs, because the NFL has its own process. And if you think a not guilty verdict means that you're safe in the NFL, let me just remind you how wrong you truly are. After the Ray Rice situation in 2014, Roger Goodell rewrote the personal conduct policy. The baseline punishment for a first offense domestic violence violation became a 6-game suspension. The second offense was a lifetime ban with the option to apply for reinstatement after a year. But here's what matters specifically for Josh Jacobs. The policy says the suspension can go beyond 6 games when there are aggravating factors. And do you know what's explicitly listed as an aggravating factor? Suffocating someone. Right there in the policy: repeated striking, violence with a weapon, violence against a pregnant woman, violence in front of a child, and choking or strangulation. Josh Jacobs' lead charge is one of the NFL's own named aggravating factors. That's not a 6-game baseline situation, that's potentially longer. And then there's the commissioner's exempt list, which is basically paid leave. The player stays on the roster, he keeps getting paychecks, but can't practice and can't play. Only Roger Goodell can put you on it, and only Roger Goodell can take you off. And there's no set timeline. You stay until he says you're done. But here's what really makes this terrifying for Josh Jacobs. The NFL does not need a conviction. They don't even need charges. Think about Deshaun Watson. More than 24 women accused him of sexual misconduct during massage sessions. A grand jury declined to indict him. 0 criminal charges, but he got an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine. Think about Kareem Hunt. He was never arrested, never charged. 8-game suspension based on video and the league's own investigation. The NFL standard isn't beyond a reasonable doubt. It's whether the player's conduct undermines or puts at risk the integrity and the reputation of the NFL. That's a much lower bar, you guys. So even if every charge against Jacobs gets dropped tomorrow, even if he's acquitted like the last 2 guys who faced these exact charges, the NFL can still suspend him. An acquittal closes the criminal case, but it does not close the league's case. Remember that, because we're about to talk about those 2 guys who were acquitted, and what happened to them tells you exactly what's about to come for Green Bay. Remember what I said in the beginning of this video? This is the 3rd straight year that an NFL player has faced charges of this magnitude. Year 1 was Jabril Peppers, year 2 was Stephon Diggs, and I guess year 2.5 is Josh Jacobs.
I seen that Stephon Diggs
played out in ways that would make everyone uncomfortable, whether that's the league, the teams, or the fans. No matter where you land on the outcomes. Let's go to Jabril Peppers. In October of 2024, Jabril Peppers was the team captain of the New England Patriots. He just signed a $25 million extension. Then his girlfriend told police he smashed her head against a wall and choked her at least 6 times. He was also charged with possession of blow after cops found a bag in his wallet during the arrest. The NFL put Peppers on the exempt list. He missed 7 games. Imagine that. You're Josh Jacobs right now, and you're looking at Peppers' case thinking, okay, that's 7 games of my life at minimum. Even
he
before
smashed the head into the wall.
The Packers don't get a say.
Damn.
The NFLPA can't stop it. It's just Roger Goodell's call. But here's where it gets a little complicated. In January of 2025, a jury acquitted Peppers on every domestic violence charge, not guilty across the board. He pled guilty to the blow charge separately. So was the exempt list the right call? 7 games for a guy who was ultimately found not guilty? Then we go to a few months ago. Stephon Diggs. Diggs is accused of smacking and choking his personal chef.
Yeah, she lied. I seen that shit. She was lying. You can tell she was lying.
It's basically the same charges.
You can just tell she was
felony
lying.
strangulation, and Diggs pled not guilty in February. And then 3 weeks ago, on May 5th, a jury found Stephon Diggs not guilty on everything. About an hour of deliberation, and that's it. The defense argued that there were no photos of injuries, no statements about an assault for 2 full weeks after the alleged incident. The case came down to one person's word against another's, and the jury said it wasn't enough. So ask yourself, if you're Josh Jacobs listening right now, what exactly are you thinking? Well, you're thinking that the last 2 guys that were faced with these charges were able to just walk away scot-free. You're thinking that juries don't love these cases when it's just testimony against testimony. You're thinking that you have a roadmap, and that's probably why the defense already sounds confident. But if you're Roger Goodell, you're thinking something completely different. You're thinking that I've got about a PR problem anytime one of these cases hits the news. You're thinking about Ray Rice. You're thinking about what happens if you don't act and it turns out that the charges were legit. That fear, the fear of being too lenient, has driven every major NFL discipline decision throughout the Roger Goodell era. You can't understand any of this without understanding what happened to Ray Rice. On February of 2014, Ray Rice punched his fiancée unconscious in an Atlantic City elevator. TMZ released footage of him dragging the body out. The NFL saw that footage and suspended him for 2 games. Josh Gordon got a full season for weed that same year. Yeah, the NFL was a wild place back then. Then in September, TMZ dropped the video from inside the elevator, the actual punch, and within hours, the Ravens cut Ray Rice and Goodell suspended him indefinitely. He went from 2 games to a lifetime ban because the public saw what happened. Not because the NFL suddenly cared more, because the cameras caught them not caring enough. Rice never played another snap, and Goodell had to stand at a podium and say, "I didn't get it right." That moment is why we have a 6-game minimum. That moment is why the exempt list gets used so aggressively now. Every DV decision the NFL makes is still a reaction to how badly they failed with Ray Rice. And that's why Jacobs' situation is going to move fast. Because the one thing Goodell fears more than anything is being caught again. So I know what you guys might be wondering.
Instantly just
how
fail.
does this affect the Green Bay Packers?
It ain't funny, but that shit just wrong. You hear me? That shit wrong.
Is making $10.2 million in base salary this year with a total cap
it ain't
of
funny, but that's wrong.
$14.5 million. One of the highest paid non-quarterbacks on the roster. Brian Gutekunst went to the combine in February and said Josh Jacobs would absolutely be back and called him a warrior who has a lot of good years left. Then Emmanuel Wilson left for Seattle, and the Packers responded by not drafting a running back. This is kind of baffling considering how deep this running back class was, but this is a backfield that was screaming for depth. So you know who's next up if Jacobs can't play? Marshawn Lloyd, a 3rd-round pick from 2024 who has played in 1 NFL game in his 2 entire seasons because the man cannot stay on the field. After that, it's Chris Brooks, who's a solid pass blocker but has never been asked to carry an offense. Wrong, then Damian Martinez. That's the whole list. But it's not just about bodies. Think about what Josh Jacobs means to this offense. In 2024, his first year in Green Bay, he carried the football 299 times. He scored 15 rushing touchdowns. He was the identity of what Matt LaFleur wanted to build. A physical, ground and pound team that takes pressure off of Jordan Love and controls the clock. Even in a down year in 2025, he still scored 13 rushing touchdowns, tied for 4th in the entire NFL. That short yardage reliability, that red zone presence, that give me the ball and get out of the way mentality, none of the guys behind him have shown they can provide any
Green
of
Bay
it.
for that
If
long
Goodell
though,
puts
because I think I remember him
list,
when I used to play
Packers don't
Madden,
just lose a running back. They lose their offensive identity.
What was it,
And they
Madden
did it to
20, Madden
themselves by
21, Madden
refusing to build a
22?
backup
I think he was
plan. And the
on
money side is ugly too.
the Raiders.
If Green Bay wanted to cut Jacobs right now, they'd eat $6.25 million in dead cap and save about $8.3 million. So you're paying a guy $6 million to not be on your team while also needing to find and pay his replacement. That's salary cap hell for a running back room that was already paper thin. So here's what's going to happen next. The first domino is going to be the commissioner's exempt list. Based on the Jabril Peppers case, the NFL moved within days of the arrest. Peppers was arrested on Saturday, placed on the list the following Wednesday. We should know very quickly whether Goodell sidelines Jacobs. It's the offseason, so there's slightly less urgency, but Goodell doesn't want people to be wondering why the NFL hasn't acted yet. Second is going to be the arraignment. Jacobs hasn't formally entered a plea yet. That's when we'll see the court calendar start to take shape. In the Peppers case, the trial took about 3.5 months. Diggs' case went 5 months from arrest to verdict, so we're potentially looking at a resolution sometime in the fall, right in the middle of the season. Third is going to be the NFL's own investigation. Remember, the league doesn't wait for courts. They have their own investigators, their own interview process, and their own timeline. And based on every case we just walked through, that investigation is almost certainly underway. Every time I make a video on a topic like this, I keep coming back to one thing. There is no consistency in regards to how the NFL handles these things. Remember, Jabril Peppers missed 7 games on the exempt list. Adrian Peterson missed an entire season. Kareem Hunt missed 5 weeks with the Chiefs before getting cut. The baseline is 6 games, but actual outcomes have ranged from 1 game to indefinite bans to absolutely nothing. So there's no consistency, there's no transparency. Roger Goodell usually makes these decisions based off of his vibe, and I wish I was kidding.
Well, I know there's going to be a lot of questions about Josh. I'm going to stick with the statement that we put out as an organization and just let the process play out.
I'm not here to tell you guys that
I seen that
Jacobs is
video.
guilty or innocent, but let me know in the comment section down below what
I
you
seen that
guys think
video on
about
like
the
Instagram or
situation.
something.
Aside from that, I'm your Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.
You said I'm your boy Mike dropping the mic. Good, man. Anyways, man. Y'all better keep your hands to yourself. These girls want that money, and they gonna get it. They gonna get it.